Don't make your clients feel hospitalized.
Don't make them hospitalized. Just don't make them feel hospitalized.
They had a good time.
It was a
You
good
made them have a good
experience.
time. Hi, Ben.
Hi, Carl.
You just interrupted me. I was in the middle of wonderful banter, and you said, "Oh, you didn't say hi, Ben, yet," and then I had to stop, and you derailed me.
That's right. But you were about to say something, so say it.
I was going to say something that this is not necessarily relevant to today's episode, but something that I've always, as a drummer, I've noticed a lot and had to pay a lot of attention to. Now, a little behind the curtain, before we start recording these episodes, Ben does a little, clap countdown thing, so we can clap and sync. It makes it easier to line all the stuff up in post, yada, yada, yada. Nothing crazy new there. But one of the things that Ben tries to do is to pick a specific BPM and almost like how Babe Ruth, blah, 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 almost like how Babe Ruth would, point out into the field and try to call where he would hit the home run.
Yes.
Ben does that with BPMs and what he's gonna count
well,
down.
This is all originated because I was terribly slow at BPMs for these countdowns, and Carl's like, "Why are you counting down so slowly?" And so for 30 episodes, I was at 60 BPM, and Carl's like, "Dude, come on!"
It's not that okay. So to be fair, it's not that the speed objectively is a problem or the BPM matters when you're doing this, but it's more that it was so slow, it was so hard to clap in time.
Yeah.
So instead of 3, 2, 1, clap, it was 3, 2. It was like the countdown timer when you watch an action movie, like a James Bond movie, and there's 10 seconds left for 20 minutes. That's kind of how it felt. Anyway, what I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted by Mr. Wallach over here was that one of the things that made me really love playing along with a click, especially live, was the fact that depending on your mood, depending on the adrenaline, the energy, how much coffee you had before the show, how much rum you had before the show, your perception of time and your perception of speed varies depending on the situation and depending on your momentary brain chemistry. So I feel like there are a few tempos that I feel like I can nail it no matter what. But then I'm just thinking here too, my coffee's kicking in. Maybe what I feel is 111 was not actually 111. But then the next step was, well, how do I know? What is reality? How does it matter if it works for me and it works for Ben? Is there some sort of tempo god that's going to come down and smite us? And then I realized, Carl, what is wrong with you? This doesn't matter. Shut the hell up. Get on with the episode. Okay. And that's probably the same thought that every listener is having as well. So
if we're going to pseudoscience and silliness, I feel like I felt like BPMs felt different in different countries even. This is kind of maybe everyone's like, shut up, Ben, this is not a thing. But when I was in England, I felt like the tempos felt different than here in America, in Israel or in America. I don't know. I felt like the tempos had a different resonance.
Is it like how the Pro Tools meters sound different?
Exactly.
We're not going to get into that.
It's definitely not true, but I don't know, maybe I was in some sort of altered, post-flying state that I felt that.
I mean, if it was jet lag or it was just the excitement of being in a new place.
Yep, exactly.
But anyway,
we were going to talk about being particularly hospitable and helping the artists you work with have such an amazing experience working with you that they wouldn't dream of working with anyone else because you are their dream, because you're just so accommodating and you're making them such an amazing experience. What's the term? Hospitality something?
The unreasonable hospitality.
Unreasonable hospitality.
Yeah.
So yeah, you mentioned to me also that you've been discussing this in Studio Land and that it's something that's top of mind for you. So I'm in for this because I think this is super important. So maybe you can get us kicked off here. Sounds like
Yes.
looks like you just went to get some sort of book or something.
Yes. Okay. So this is something that I was actually talking about in Studio Land for all of March. So I know that this is going to be coming out a couple of weeks after we wrapped up this particular, month's series about this. But a few months ago at this point, I got this book, Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidara. And I the whole idea behind it is, he's a restaurateur working at some of the best restaurants in the world, and eventually, running the best, like award winning, like rated like the best restaurant in the world. And I thought it was going to be a bit more of a a bit more of a business book than it actually was. It ended up being a lot more of a business focused autobiography, I guess, which is not a bad thing, but I thought there was going to be a little bit more, some more tactics in there that I could just wrap my brain around. Um, but I think what ended up helping me was the fact that there wasn't. I feel like the fact that it was much more about his approach and what he's seen in the restaurant industry of what are things that the restaurants can do, what are things that not just the individual servers or the hostess or the chef, but like the culture that they create within a restaurant. What are the things that they can do to make that restaurant just be such a unique, special experience that people will, make a reservation, 9 months in advance, that they will pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars to go and like have a meal that they have no idea what the food's going to be, because they just know that it's going to be so, the experience itself is going to be so insane. And what I love about some of the examples that he talks about is it's not gimmicky. And I think that's something I want to be very clear about right now, that it's not gimmicky, like over the top, ridiculous things. Because I've experienced some of those in restaurants before while on the road. And I want to talk about at some point the most ridiculous whiskey I've ever had. But he talks about even simple examples of, one of the waiters overheard somebody at a table saying how they have to, go feed the meter soon. And the wait staff just went back, got some quarters, went outside, put quarters in the meter for them, and then came back and said, "Hey, overheard you talking about that. Don't worry about it. We took care of it." Like simple little gestures like that maybe cost the restaurant, like $2, but made such a huge impression on those diners because it was something so thoughtful and so like simple, but it enabled them to like continue enjoying their meal. They didn't have to like get their coat on, go outside, put money in the meter, come back. They didn't have to interrupt the moment that they were sharing together with their friends. So the reason that I said I'm kind of glad that it didn't have a whole bunch of like specific tactics, and it was just more of an autobiography of observations that he's had, is it actually made it a lot more difficult and easy for me to try to apply this to us as audio professionals, because it what the examples that he used were not so uniquely perfectly specific that you have to do this and this and then the diners will be happy. It was just more of a way of thinking and a
Yeah.
way of approaching your business and a way of approaching your client interactions. And I've I've never really thought about it as hospitality, but this is stuff that I've been, paying a lot of attention to and trying really hard to do for, my entire career. And I just never really put it into the words of hospitality, or like put it in, or thinking of it in like the frame of hospitality, because I feel like that's not a word that we typically associate with recording studios or like mixing engineers and mastering engineers. So it opened up a lot of new ways of thinking for me, and also a lot of ways of really refining the things that I'm already doing as far as trying to work on the client experience and making it
Mm,
fantastic.
yeah. So maybe you could start us off with like some sort of example of something that you were able to refine based on what you read in this book. Or maybe you could even say like this was a mindset that was illuminating from the book that I was instantly able to apply to my audio business and
Yeah.
give us that example.
So I guess, client experience has always been something that I've cared about, and I've not always been good at it. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to say I'm perfect at it by any stretch because I'm always screwing up and trying different things. But maybe a very simple, specific example that I started doing recently. Um, and this is actually kind of in a way inspired by that parking meter story where it made me kind of analyze my interactions with my clients and think of what are some really, you know, inexpensive to do or like very low cost things that have a lot of personality and like personalization in it and that will make them feel special, right? And I had an idea to just write, like, this is for Studio Land right now, like for all the members in there. I thought, what if I just hand write a letter to everybody that's in there, everybody that joins, and just something that simple, right? And c- thought, okay, well, I don't know how expensive it would be to mail stuff overseas because there are, a lot of the members are international, and something I did not know even was a thing is that here in the U.S., we have the forever stamps, which is like you buy your stamps, at whatever price they are now, and then even if the price goes up later, I can still use that stamp. I did not realize that there are internet or global forever stamps,
Hmm.
which is the same concept but for international airmail. So I could send a letter to anywhere in the US for, I think the current stamp price is like 77 cents. Like it went up quite a bit since last time I bought stamps because it's
Yeah,
2025. I
I was
don't
gonna
mail
guess
things.
30 something cents because
Yeah.
that was I think the last time I remember buying stamps in America.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, because I don't, I never mail stuff. Like if I have to mail anything, it's usually like if I have to pay a bill with a check or something, which I don't even know when that was, or if I have to sign something and like mail it back to like the insurance company or something, usually they give you like a prepaid envelope. So like haven't bought stamps in probably like 5 or 6 years. So anyway, but I was like, okay, well, it's like 70 some cents. Envelopes are basically negligibly priced. Like I can get a 50 pack for like $3 or something, and obviously, like printer ink and paper. There's like very, very, very minimal cost. And then I looked at the prices for international, thinking it was going to be ridiculous, and it's like $1.60 something. Like it's like $1.65, I think, to mail a letter anywhere in the world.
Amazing.
So I was like, you know, that's nothing, relative to, whether it's like a mixing client that's, giving me hundreds or thousands of dollars, or like one of my students is giving me, hundreds or thousands of dollars. Like I can spare $1.65 to do something special for them. Like it almost becomes like such an obvious no brainer. So it actually sparked me to make some custom Studio Land letterhead. Like I made a whole new logo for it, which I've been putting off for a long time. And I was like, I'm gonna make a cool new logo, make a little letterhead. And I went out and I got some like cardstock. This is like pastel colored cardstock from Target, and just made like a bunch of these things. So it's like thicker paper. So my thought being, I want it to be something that they would never want to throw away. Something, I want it to be like, it's colorful, it's like thicker paper, it's handwritten. It's just like something that's a little bit special. And I sent an email out to all of the members and just said, hey, give me your give me your mailing address. I want to send you something, and it's, I mean, obviously it's not going to like change the world,
Hmm.
but it's just, it was the first idea that I had that I was like, okay, this is something that I think can create another memory, just make it feel extra special, and something that is not, relative to the amount of money that a client pays me. This is like nothing. If I don't have $1.65 to spare, then I should be changing my pricing structure. But then also, like, because I'm remote, I'm like fully remote. This is something that I could do for my mixing clients as well, or for mastering clients or whoever, because usually the big thing that I had to really like pull myself away from the examples in the book and try to like really apply it very 30,000 foot, approach to it, was the fact that I'm remote. So a lot of the examples in the book that he uses are not only just for restaurants, but also obvious like in-person situations. So it made me start going down this rabbit hole of trying to find ways that I can create memorable client experiences for people that are not physically ever going to be setting foot into here. Because a lot of the examples I can think of for studio owners would be like, oh, you have like, obviously you have a coffee maker, or you have like really good beans, or maybe like you have a grinder and like you freshly grind the coffee for every session that you do. Like little dumb things like that people will remember.
For sure.
Or sometimes people will like, there's a lot of studios in LA where they like, bring in like fresh baked cookies or donuts or something. And like, there are a lot of things that are obvious and like fairly easy to do, like who's not going to be excited about unexpected freshly baked cookies? But the challenge for a lot of us being remote is that, I can't, I'm not going to like be able to send you freshly baked cookies for our Zoom call, So, I mean, I could. That's going to be insane.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to figure out other ways that, we as remote engineers or producers can do this and find ways to create those little extra little things that don't cost a lot of money, but do have a big impact.
Yeah. Man, I was thinking about this the whole time you're talking. So I'm working on this like meditation app, and in Israel, it's like a big thing to send people like a gift around a holiday. So or to do, or like if a company has employees, they'll usually have like nice things for a holiday. So for Passover, they'll usually give out like cards that you could spend at a supermarket. Will help you pay for your your holiday groceries and stuff. And so we just had the holiday of Purim, which is like, I guess, the Jewish Halloween. People dress up, drink alcohol, and have a good time. There's a concept in that holiday where you give out something called mishloach manot, which is like a gift of just food that you give to your neighbor or your friend or whatever. And so people go around to houses, kind of like trick or treat, but usually they give you something nice and you give them something nice back or whatever. And the guys that I've been working on this meditation app with just sent me like such a nice thing, just because like they appreciated me. It was just like they said this mishloach manot. It was like with like a bottle of wine and nice chocolate, and it was just like, wow, this is so nice. They really appreciate me. And then I was like I've always just been like a freelancer, so I never thought about like getting any of my clients, anything like this. But it really resonated with me, and I was like, I told my wife, I need to get like my biggest clients something really nice every year now. Like this is like it finally like clicked. Like this is like I felt so appreciated, and then if I send this to anyone, they'll feel so appreciated. So it's like if they're sending me, thousands of dollars of business every year, like I could send them something really nice for the holidays. So Thanks for reminding me about this, because but this is like I had this realization, 2 weeks ago on Purim when I got this package, and it was just so meaningful. So I'm like, from the receiving end, I realized how amazing this can be if you give this to someone else. And so for like, I guess it's for me, like, the artists that I'm working with are not big enough clients that I would send them like such a nice package. But there, I do have some audio clients that it would make sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I was going to say, like, that's something that I was going to say is it depends on the scope of the project. I feel
Yeah.
like it's
Yeah.
like
I've been busting my balls for these guys, so
yeah. Well,
it
yeah,
makes
and I think
it makes sense that the scope of what they did, even though I was still really honored. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and I think like an obvious studio example would be if you're producing a full album for for somebody versus mastering a single. You know what I
Right,
mean? Like
exactly.
it has to be kind of like relative
But
to or
if you're a
proportionate.
mastering engineer and you have like a few mixing engineers who send you most of their stuff and you're consistently getting work from them, like that's an amazing thing to do, is to like, those three mixers who send me, 20 tracks a year or more, like I'm going to get them like some bouquet or something for Christmas or Passover or whatever
Yeah,
holiday you celebrate, kind of thing,
I'm gonna shout out friend of the show Nick DeLorenzo because a couple years ago, like this was it might have been 2020 or 2021 when I was like in the thick of doing. Gosh, I don't know how many songs I sent him. I probably sent him like over. I would not be surprised if I sent him like over 100 projects per year for a little bit. But one year he like sent me a mocha pot, like one of those like coffee makers, which I'd never had before, and I was and some coffee with it as well, and I that was like my new favorite thing for like a couple months. And I was just like, oh, I can make coffee this way, and it was like something like he did not have to do that. I did not expect that at all.
Right.
But it stuck with me and I still have it and I still use it. And every time that I see it, I think of Nick,
Right.
not because it has, like a panorama mastering logo on it or anything like that. No, it's just like a regular mocha pot. But it's the thoughtfulness of it
Yeah.
stuck with me all these years.
Yeah. That's
So
amazing.
um,
Yeah. So be thoughtful.
yeah, yeah. So okay. So let's think of some other things we could do. So we talked about like writing a letter, like write like a handwritten letter. We have, which I think both of these things. Before we brainstorm some other ideas, I think I what I think is so meaningful about them in my eyes is that they're physical and not in a like material items are more important. But I think especially for people like us that work remotely with so many people, the fact that any sort of like physical interaction is almost never going to happen. Like I've probably worked on like hundreds of songs with Nicholas, and we've never met in person. Even my partner Julian, who I've been, gosh, we've working together for 6 or 7 years now. Like we've never met in person, and I talk to him every single day. So like there are these relationships that we have that like we have the rapport and we have the collaboration and we have like the one-on-one, even like you and I, we've never met in person, so like the fact that we're able to have these relationships, these friendships, but never have any sort of like physical like interaction, these little things, like even just like a handwritten letter or something, is just a way to kind of like bring these digital relationships into the physical reality. I don't know, that got really like healing crystals-y by the end of that. But like, do you know what I mean? Am I making sense?
Yeah. You're like, oh no, this person does exist. They're not just in my phone or on my computer screen, like in zeros and ones. Like there's something tangible there, beyond the screen.
Yeah. And I think that another important thing, I keep on like finding more things to talk about before we start brainstorming. But another thing is like, I want to be very clear that I don't mean that you should send people stuff with your logo on it. So I feel like I think that kind of misses the point and makes it about you instead of making it about them. So if I were to like, let's say that I wanted to make like a custom coffee mug to send you, Ben, right? I wouldn't want it to be like the Carl Bonner logo or like Studio Land logo, right? Like I want it to be like I would get like I would if I wasn't your co-host, if I was just a guest, then I would like want to get like a Secret Sonics mug or something, something that you'll use, but like it's not about me, it's about you, but you'll still think of me whenever you use it. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's the difference. Like I don't want people to think that this is an opportunity to like send people your merch, because that's kind of like missing the point. It shouldn't be like,
although I don't necessarily think that's a terrible idea. Like, I don't know, when I started a wedding band, our first like the first 10 couples we played for, we actually made these like wedding band mugs with our logo on it, and it's just like we said, like, we were so happy to make you guys happy. Again, Hebrew, it made more sense in Hebrew, but we wrote like, we were happy to be part of your happiness or whatever. It's just hard to translate, so it sounds good, but you get what I'm saying. And it had our logo on the other side. So, and then we gave those to those 10 couples, and they kept them, and they kept using them, and they recommended us also because of those mugs. It was like a really good thing. I don't know. I think sometimes doing things with your logo is not a terrible idea. Also, when I got married, the photographer gave us a USB stick with our photos that was like this really nice wooden USB stick with his logo on it. And I'm like thinking about it now. You know what I mean? Like that was like really nice to get that. I don't know.
Yeah, but I'm gonna say this though. I'm gonna say for both of those examples, they were still very personalized, because like the wedding one, like it wasn't just like the mug with the wedding band logo on it. Like it was a special message to the couple. Like,
right.
We're so happy we made you happy. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
it was like the same for those 10 couples. But yes.
Yeah. I know, but I'm saying as far as they felt like it felt like
genuine.
It was a message to them. Like, we're happy that you're happy, And then also with the USB stick, like they didn't just give you like a blank like an empty USB stick with their logo. It was like the pictures that were on it were of you guys. And so I think it's not that you can't have stuff with your logo on it somewhere in there. I think it's just when that is the gift. When the gift is something with your logo on it, and that's all that it is, and there's no context, there's no personalization.
Right. You don't want to make it like a corporate, like you're at like some trade show, and then you get like a corporate like mouse, a trackpad or something.
Yeah, it's going to end up at Goodwill or the trash, or
yes, yeah,
shoot up by your dog. Yeah,
no, something that you'll use.
Yeah. So like if you were able to make like a mug that maybe had your logo on one side, but then had like their album art on the other.
Wow, that's cool. That's an idea. Something like
that, or like a just text of like an inside joke that you guys had. Something that gives them incentive to. Something that gives them incentive to not donate it. That's really the thing. Yeah. Okay. So let's brainstorm. What are some other things that we can do?
Are we talking specifically remote, or can it be also in-person stuff?
As long as we do some remote as well. So I feel like if you want to do some in-person ones first to kind of like get the juices flowing, because they're a little bit more lower. They're like a little bit more like low-hanging fruits. Yeah.
Yeah, they are. I mean, like offering people quality beverages is just like such a basic, like having good coffee on hand, having like a nice mug even to drink it in, not just like a paper cup. I always like to hand somebody like a nice mug. And coffee, tea, having water. And if you have snacks, even better. I don't know, just having like some basic stuff on hand that make people feel like, oh, like I can chill here. And it just like opens up, like makes them more comfortable immediately. Like is like, okay, cool. We can hang. We can also like talk while we're getting, the coffee prepped or whatever, and get into a zone of like, oh, cool, I'm in the studio now. I think also just like, having like comfortable space in your studio, like having a nice cozy chair they could sit in, have it presented for. Like I have this yellow chair. You also have your yellow chair. Just like a place where they could sit and they could feel cozy, and they could feel like they they can be themselves and be comfortable and happy. I don't know.
Yeah. So I wanna push you. Okay, so let's talk about the food, right?
Mm,
So and like the coffee and tea stuff. So there are let's think of it in like tiers of how hospitable we could be. Okay, let's challenge that a little bit. So yes, having snacks on hand is great. Having tea and coffee on hand is great. Having water on hand is great. Um, but making a mental note, like if you're the artist coming in, and you had a session and it was great, and you end up coming back for another one, and they got like the specific snack that you really loved, or like you mentioned you were talking about a specific like you're talking about chips or something, it came up and they're like, oh, did you ever have blah 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 blah, and you're like, oh no, I never had those, and the next time they show up and you have like a bag of those chips, or their particular kind of tea that they really like, or even just saying like, oh hey, I made sure we had, like, I know you're really liking the Earl Grey or whatever, or like the throat coat, like I know it's a vocal session today, so I made sure to have some extra throat coat around.
I don't
I'm
even
just saying
know
like,
what that is.
oh, it's just like a special tea, like singers, like it's just like I don't know if there's like honey in it or something, but
Uh huh.
I'm a drummer. I don't know, but it's like, but it's like how can we think about going beyond having some basic things and like trying to aiming for the unforgettable, right? Aiming for that like outrageous
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. 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 That's great.
So even like comfy vibe, like what could we do to like make that even more special?
Comfy vibe. Well, I don't know. I mean, like what I love about my new studio space is just like the vibe here. People walk in, they're like, "Oh, I'm in a different kind of place. It's like an old like house. There's like a cool view here." It just sets the scene in like such a nice way of like, "Oh, wow, what is this place?" And then you can kind of show them the space when they come in, and then they come into the studio, and then they see like the acoustic treatment, and they see the yellow chair, and they see like the lighting, and they see like not that my lighting's so good yet, but and they see like the basses on the wall, the guitars on the wall, and it just like it sets the tone of like, oh, this is like a cool space, and it just makes them want to be like, oh wow, Ben space is dope.
Yeah.
It totally like solidifies it. I don't know, good rugs, having a rug on the floor, like Big Lebowski style, all that stuff. Yeah, and sometimes like for, if a singer's not comfortable, sometimes like I'll be like, let's do vibe lighting, and then I'll just shut the light, and we'll have like I have like a nice little lamp here and like some LED lights, so it'll be just like a totally dimmed, warm light kind of vibe thing. That also really helps. Just like having that as an option. I'll be like, every other session I do that. I'd be like, let's trim the lights. Today I didn't need it, but like 2 days ago session needed it. So like let's get the vibe lighting. Let's relax a little bit. Like if a singer is stressed out about it, or in this case it was like their second time recording in a recording studio. It's like, hey, it's all good. Take it easy. I'm gonna dim the lights, and yeah. And I don't know. My studio has like a lot of personal touches. Like when people come in here, they see like I have above my acoustics. I have like these like old whiskey bottles. You were gonna mention something about whiskey before, but I have
Oh
like
yeah.
old whiskey bottles. There's no actual bottles in there. It's just like the boxes that they were in. But like it has like personality. Like, oh wow, the Lagavulin. I have
Yeah.
people like it's like a vibe, and people see it and they like feel cool. Like it feels like, oh, it's like a homey space. Like mine doesn't feel like super polished. It feels homey. And I got
Yeah.
like this like Native American sort of rug, and like all kinds of stuff. The Flight of the Conchords poster. So like these little things like give it like a personal touch. So if people are like aware of those things, and like those little things that I'm into, then it makes them feel like like Ben's my guy.
Yeah.
It just like it's I guess more than just like the actual comfort of it. It just like feels like me, and
Yeah.
then people feel like I'm just more authentic, I think.
Yeah. And I think that's awesome because I feel like a lot of I think this is less of an issue now than it was even like 5 years ago. But I feel like there was a while where every studio looked the same, and every studio kind of felt the same. Every solopreneur's studio kind of looked the same, because it either looked like it looked like a bedroom, or it looked like like the most stale, I don't know, like uncreative space. I feel like a lot of it looked like it looked like a college's recording studio.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Where like
Mm-hmm.
everything is
Yeah.
clean and simple and just very functional,
Yeah.
but completely devoid of vibe
Life.
and
Yeah.
life and
Vibe.
energy. Yeah, yeah. So my mix suite, like I've got, yeah, I it's like dark wall. I painted dark walls. I went and like bought hanging lights that are like not chandeliers, but like special like mid-century like light fixtures, and it's like pretty low light in there, but like I'm just mixing, so whatever. And for me, like over my mixing space, like when I did that, like I don't even have people come over. Like the vibe is not just for not just for people coming over to the studio, but also it's for me to put me in the right kind of space. And then also for it to look interesting on camera too, because people are going to get their first impressions of that vibe of you on social media before they even come over. I was going to say, Ben, I feel like all the stuff you're describing is really cool and off screen. And I
Yeah.
wish that I could see some of that stuff. Like, I wish you had like
Yeah.
vibe stuff behind you because like
I got the Beatles poster.
I can't.
I had the Danish in the frame at one point, but then I had to move because of the way the acoustic treatment went up here.
Yeah.
I have
Well,
a
what I'm going to
guitar.
say is like here, and especially because I mean, the most people like your the Secret Sonics clips are pretty much all the content you make, right? And when it's like the trimmed up reel, like you don't see any of that stuff. Like I mean, even now, like I can't see the Beatles poster. All I see the little speaker pillow behind you. I see the telly up on the wall, and I see a curtain.
Yeah.
And then I see you in all gray in front of a wall that's 80% gray.
Right. Yeah. Fair
So
point.
yeah, and I just saw like a little bit of blue in your chair, but like that was only when you like uncomfortably squirmed when I called you out on it. You know what I mean? So I like that's something too. Like if something that we have to really take into consideration as when we're working remotely too. But it's that like a lot of that stuff people might not even see. So we have to try to physically put things in a space that they can actually see it and get that vibe, because that vibe, it doesn't help them get a sense of that vibe if they can't see it.
Yeah. Totally true. And nice calling me out there with my social media lack thereof.
It's what I do. It's how, you know what? I feel like, vampires need to,
Suck your blood.
They suck blood to be able to survive. I need to call out producers and engineers when they don't make enough content.
Yeah.
I think that's that's what
I'm like
me.
deeply aware of the lack of content, but it's also sort of like a season I'm in right now that I'm not prepared to do more right now. I just don't have any more time.
It's a season you've been in since I've met you, Ben.
That's not true. Well, fair point about the lack of content, but the actual season has not been the entire time.
Yeah. Yes.
but the season I am in now is fairly, I don't want to say intentional, because like I wasn't, my career has twisted and turned, and I've had to stay afloat in a country at war for a year and a half, and life has been bizarre. But I hope that this season comes to a close.
Yeah. And I do want to say too, like, I'm not saying you need to make more content. I was just sassing you, but I would say I would challenge you to say that, like, if that is the main way that people are gonna see you and like kind of get your vibe before they meet you,
Right.
I would say maybe try to make your background a little bit more Ben.
More Ben. Yeah.
Make it more Ben.
Well, yeah.
Because Ben's cool.
There should be more content of the front of the studio that you can't see. You're right.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen the front.
It's vibey in here. People like it. People come in, they're like, "Ooh, I like your room."
Okay, so let's get back to brainstorming some ideas. So remotely, let's think about like remote specific stuff. Even if it's not physical, even just sending like a Loom video after the project's over, thanking them for having you on the team. It could be things like going out of your way to make the release day posts like really personal and special, and instead of just the image of the album art and, hey, new song by so and so out now, check it out, Like you could literally talk into the camera and talk about how you felt the first time that you heard it when they sent the demo, and like how excited you are that it's out because you knew that there was something special about it when you first got it, and you tried your best to just not get in the way of how awesome their ideas were. And it's out now. You should check it out. It's worth the 3 minutes. Like something like that can like definitely not take a lot of time, not take a lot of physical effort, but just takes a little bit of thought, and thinking ahead.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're sometimes bad at that. We're sometimes bad at just like remembering to do that or like thinking to do it, even though it is such an super easy thing to physically, like logistically do.
Yeah. I think it's important to just remember
Yeah.
that your artists are putting stuff out, and then remember to share them, and to like at the very least like praise them, and say like, wow, it was so fun working with, at the very least say it was so fun working with it, this artist on this song, like go check it out. I loved working on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just like give like, and that will make like, the artists that you've done that work with, like appreciate you so much that you were
Yeah.
there for them every step of the way, including sharing it with your audience.
Yeah. And I think something you could do too is, which I think is maybe the first step in being able to do that effectively, is to always check in with them, not about if they have new songs ready to hire you to work on, but just like, hey, like, do you have a release date yet for that song? Do you have the artwork figured out yet? Oh man, I can't wait to see what you have in mind. Let me keep me posted. Let me know when you get the artwork back, and like, when you have a release date, and then keep on checking in about it. Not checking in about new music to work on, but just check in on like, oh, like, do you have a date? I'm excited to post about it when it comes out. Just it's a way to stay on their radar, obviously, but also to really show that you care about them and the song even after you've already received your final payment for it.
Yeah.
So then it also, it makes you look good. It makes them feel good. And then, you're not surprised when you're like, oh, that song I worked on came out 3 weeks ago and nobody told me.
Yeah.
Which happens to a lot of people.
And you can also ask them like how people are resonating with it. Like, oh, how did this song do like on like a response like level? Like, even if it didn't do, even if it got 1,000 streams or less, like it could still have like, oh, my friends told me this like really resonated with them. They really loved it. Like, and just like, oh, I'm so glad. Like, that's great. Just staying in communication and finding out what worked, what didn't work with them. And you can, and that could even be like, a seed for them for what to do next time,
Yeah. And it's staying in communication with them regarding like the emotional side of it and like the experience side of it and the creative side of it, not just the, logistical, let's work on more songs. Do you have, you ready to send me files and a deposit yet? Kind of follow-ups that too many people default to doing.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a lot of things you could do. I'm sure there are lots of ideas that we didn't mention, or that we'll think of the second we stop recording this episode.
Feel free to reach out and send us your ideas.
Or I want to hear. I want to hear what everybody else is trying, and whether things that you've done before, or things that people have done for you, or things that you've been thinking you should do, but you've just never actually taken the step to do it. But I guess what I would want to challenge everybody listening, and this is including you, Ben, I'm including myself, and the listeners, like, try to identify one thing that you can add to your standard operating procedures, right? Like one thing that you could add to your process that just makes the client feel extra special. One little addition, and start doing it. It can be something extravagant. I mean, it can be something extravagant, but it probably shouldn't. Probably doesn't need to be. And it can just be something small, but personalized. And I would almost try to argue to make it not about the music itself, and especially not about your role in it. Not about like, oh, here's some extra stems or something. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
make it about their emotional experience working with you and trusting you collaboratively.
Yeah. I like that. It's a good challenge to think about. But Carl, you still haven't told us about the whiskey.
Okay. Well, this is how we'll end the episode. I'll tell you the most.
Well, we also have to talk about our songs that we were inspired by.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But we'll do that after the whiskey.
Okay, so quick whiskey story, and then we'll talk about our songs, our new songs for the week.
Okay.
So my quick whiskey story: the most ridiculous beverage experience I ever had. I was on tour in England with my old band Cheerleader, and after one of the shows in London, the president of our label was out with us and took us to this restaurant. I forget what it was. It was like a bar that apparently the bartender there had just won best bartender in the world like that year. And we go in and it's kind of, what I would have imagined a fancy restaurant or like a fancy hotel bar would be like. So that didn't really surprise me, but we sat down and even the menus were like physically very weird. They were like this there was like a circle. It almost looked like a board game where there was this like circular menu and you had to like spin a menu that was like inside of this casing and it had like a little cutout where you could see the drink name or something. It was weird, but I just remember like it was like this weird like interactive experience to even look at the menu. And then the drink that I ordered, I tell this story a lot because it's so ridiculous and I love it. And also I hate it. And also I love it, but also I hate it, but also I love it. So
that amount of love and hate.
Yeah. So I don't even remember what it tasted like because that wasn't what actually made it memorable. I'm not joking when I tell you this. So I ordered this bourbon drink, and I'm sure there are some other ingredients in it. I don't remember that because that's not what's important. But they come out, and the waiter comes out with the drink and an inflated plastic bag. And inside of that bag is a handmade eucalyptus worry doll made somewhere in like at the top of the Andes Mountains by villagers.
Oh my gosh.
And part of the experience of drinking this bourbon, or it might have been whiskey, it might have been whiskey, not bourbon, but again, that's not the important part.
Bourbon's a type of whiskey, so it's cool.
It is, yeah. I just forget if it's like specifically bourbon or if it was whiskey. But so he comes out and explains to me that part of the experience of this drink is that he is going to hold this bag of Andes mountain air. It was captured in the top of the Andes Mountains and sealed with this eucalyptus worry doll. He has to hold it there. I have to poke a hole in it and smell the Andes air as I take my first sip of the drink.
Wow.
So I am not necessarily saying that, as mix engineers, you should do that. Like, don't make your clients sniff mountain air.
I mean, could you even smell anything? Like, I'm like finding it hard to buy.
I mean, it had like the eucalyptus like worry doll in it, so like it did have it was like a
smelled of eucalyptus.
Smelled of eucalyptus, which affected the flavor of the drink.
Sure,
but also, I mean, this is 10 years ago, and I think it was something like 40 pounds, like to get this drink.
Jeez,
it was like an absurd amount of money, even in 2014. That I wasn't paying for. The label was paying for it, so I got two. I got to poke two bags of Andes mountain air.
That's a great.
I did not regret that part, but it was just, but like that is an absurd thing that like, was it kind of gimmicky? Probably, yeah. Am I very mad that I got a little too drunk and forgot to take those worry dolls home with me because I really wish I still had that. Yeah, I don't have a lot of regrets in life, but I think that's maybe one of them is not remembering the eucalyptus worry doll. But that is an example of, how to make an unforgettable experience, because here I am, 11 years later,
Still talking about it.
still talking about it. Now, did I remember the actual drink itself? No. Did I remember the, the ingredients in it? No. But do I remember the feeling that I had when I was there and like the memory that it created for me? Absolutely. And
So-
in the same way that, the artist is going to forget exactly how your snare drum, how punchy the snare drum was in that mix, or they're going to forget exactly which microphone you used when you were recording vocals, but they are going to remember the way that they felt and the way that you made them feel.
Strong.
So, yeah.
It's a great story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it, man. So we got to channel our inner, bourbon or whiskey, eucalyptus drink, and just give people an unforgettable experience, and with positive experiences that make them feel comfy, cozy, and hospitalized. How do you say that?
No, don't make your clients feel hospitalized.
Don't make them hospitalized. Just don't make them feel hospitalized. You've been hit by a smoothed hospitalizer. I don't know where we're going with this. How do you say someoe's been given hospitality? I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Hospitality. Yes.
Hospitalitified.
They had a good time.
It was a
It
good
made them
experience.
have a good time.
And they're hiring you to mix the next record.
Yes. Okay. So speaking of records,
okay,
let's abruptly transition into the final piece.
I think we skipped 1 week, but we want to make this. We want to make this a weekly thing where we're adding 5 songs each, meaning 5 for me and 5 for you, Carl, to an updated playlist of inspiration of stuff that we've been listening to and are inspired by. For you, dear listener, to get inspired also and to follow along. And I think we said we maybe would delete songs off the playlist after 10 weeks or something, 5 weeks. Once we get to 50 songs, we start purging. But we're gonna have it a continued playlist of inspiration for people to just get into the zone, and it'll be curated by us and a little bit of inspo from Ben and Carl. So let's go through the 5 songs that we chose for the next batch.
Okay.
I have it, so mine are first right now. So I'll go first. So the first song I chose is called Grapevine Fires. It's by Death Cab for Cutie. It's off the record A Narrow Stairs. And the reason why I chose this song, I've just been on a bit of a Death Cab for Cutie kick recently, but I love that the drums are actually very small on this song, but there's a Fender Rhodes or a Whirly that just envelops everything and actually provides the low end of the song. And I think it's just a really cool way to kind of give the low end from a different place than you would expect. So it's small drums with a really cool shuffle beat, and then this really dope low end from the keyboards. So I think it's just a cool sound, and it's a nice song. So check it out.
Cool. My first one is You by Jadu Hart. I'm not even sure how to say that. And honestly, I'm going to be very, very blunt and say that a lot of these, or at least 2 of them, I don't remember what they sound like. I'll have to listen to them again because they're not songs that I've listened to a million times. These are things that jumped out at me over the course of this past week, and I was like, that's really cool. And I just added it to the playlist. So some of these I've only listened to one time. If I remember correctly, I was just playing a little clip of it in the background so I could remember. This one has some modern electronic, I don't know, weird, gritty, atmospheric modern electronic, but with some maybe Massive Attack or Portishead kind of, trip hop bits in it, especially with the vocals, the way that the energy of the vocals kind of feels that way to me. And I just was this is cool. I remember sonically, it was just really a lot of interesting things happening in the song. And that was all it took for me to put it on there because got me excited in the moment, and that is the whole point.
Amazing. Yeah, and I listened to it, and I also thought it was sonically really cool. Um, the second song I chose was a song by Bob Dylan called "With God on Our Side," and it's just like a super cynical song about what people do when they say God is on their side. And it's just like, yeah, like, yeah, and he like, there's like a mention to the Holocaust in there that made me tear up the first time I heard it, and yeah, and it's just like super powerful song, and it's just like a guitar and a vocal and just powerful lyrics and raw emotional vocals and just yeah. I know everyone's into Bob Dylan now because of the movie, but it's a good one, so check it out.
Yeah. The next one for me is "I Won't Let You Die" by Signs of the Swarm. It's just really heavy and very fast and very gritty, and I love. There's this kind of, I don't want to say like a newer wave, or at least like it's newer to me, where there's these like really dissonant, heavy songs that are coming out that also have a lot of punch in places that you don't expect there to be punch. Like I feel like for a while, a lot of like heavy metal stuff, like that's like such a broad term, but like the drums were punchy, and then the guitars were kind of like very just, there's like 8 layers of the same guitar, and it just kind of becomes a big wall. And there's some really interesting, like, I don't know, like bit crushing kind of stuff. That sounds like that's what's happening. I don't know if that's literally what's happening, but there's something really interesting about some of the textural pieces and the way that this is mixed. And I feel like the newer, like, the recent Knocked Loose album is very similar in that sense. Like there's a lot of like familiarity, but also like the way that the grit is added is, I don't know, it sticks out in a really interesting way. So I wanted to add "I Won't Let You Die" by Signs of the Swarm.
Nice. I will say that when I listened to it for the first time, I was like, I can't listen to this right now. It was like too intense. It was like I was not in a headspace to hear it. So like for me, metal, like I have to be in the right zone to be able to listen to metal. And it's like not always,
Yeah. And the fact that on this playlist right now, it's currently in between Bob Dylan and Steve Miller Band.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's pretty
It
great.
just shows how old school I am, really. But okay, so my next song, "Fly Like an Eagle" by Steve Miller Band. I just love the ambience of this song. I think it's just so well done. And it's like old and done really well back in the day, and like really great use of like early synthesizers, kind of how they just come out of nowhere in the mix and just envelop you from the sides and stuff. I think it's just like it's like well done 70s thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, great. "Carried Away" by Passion Pit. It is just pure. It is. Passion Pit has some of the purest juxtapositions of really happy sounding music and really, really difficult lyrics.
See, I didn't even notice the lyrics. I just noticed the happy backing track. Yeah.
Like they do such a good job of that contrast. It's incredible. Yeah, and that song gets stuck in my head. I'd say probably every couple months, and then I just have to listen to it a bunch of times to get it out of my head again. And this is one of those seasons of my life where I just had Gossamer on on repeat for a little bit.
Amazing. Still, I'm playing it old school for the rest of this list. But after the Gold Rush by Neil Young, if you haven't gotten into this whole record by Neil Young, it's just an incredible folk songwriting record. It's just a classic. Like I think more people are familiar with Harvest probably if you go back in like the early Neil Young days, but after the Gold Rush has some phenomenal songs, and this is one of them. And if you haven't listened to it, go check it out.
Cool. I added "Outright" by Wild Party, another one from like the Passion Pit kind of era. This one, I love that song. I love the band. It was the very first song I did a remix for, because I met them down at South by Southwest. It was like very difficult time for me personally. Like I don't think I talked about this on the podcast. This is gonna be a very abrupt quick turn, but like I ended up going inpatient in a mental institution for a week, just for like having not good thoughts. I'll just say that. And it was this weird thing where like I was in, and I came out, and then like literally I think like the next day, like the day after I got out, we went to South by Southwest and like spent a week down there. So like I was in like it was a weird time mentally for me. Kind of like just first, realizing that I had anxiety and depression, and like starting to tackle that and come to terms with that and understanding what that even means. And then like literally going from, being inpatient and I'm not allowed to have shoelaces, to getting in a van, driving across the country to South by Southwest. And it was a weird time. But I met Wild Party then, ended up doing a remix of this song, and it was the very first remix I ever did. And this was the moment that kind of like changed the whole trajectory of my professional career. And I will always hold that song like really, really, really close to my heart, because it was like the catalyst for, it was unintentionally the catalyst for like a whole new direction for me as a person.
Wow, that's crazy. That's hard to follow up after that, but that sounds like I'm gonna have to listen to that again.
Yeah, so talk about your Rush song, Ben.
Yeah, I got nothing to say here. Well, okay. Well, Rush was actually my first concert. The first concert I went to I went with my cousin, MSG, Madison Square Garden, Rush, 2001. Good stuff.
Is that Counterpoints, or what was the?
I don't remember what
Counterpart. I forget what this.
I don't remember what the record that came out was, but it was an amazing concert. And as a bass player, Geddy Lee's obviously amazing. But actually, I chose this song not because of the bass or drums, which are maybe more famous in Rush, but because of the guitars. I think this song has just the most badass guitar riff, like in the verse. Like the verse just is like, it's just such a badass guitar thing. And like the lyrics are weird. It's a great song, like melodically and harmonically. And the lyrics are obviously weird because it's Rush, but the guitar parts are just the most badass guitar parts of like any rock verse you'll hear. And I just like I had a Rush kick earlier this year. Nice. I was like going down the Rush trail for a while there, and there's something about this song that just like the guitars just stand out to me, and so I felt like sharing that.
Yeah, I'll listen to it. I don't think I know that one.
Yeah. It's
no, Passion to Bangkok. I have heard that. No.
I think that was like a breakthrough record for them, 2112. That's it. That's the chorus, but the verse is where it kicks ass. So check it out.
I feel like I haven't listened to that in so long that all I can think of is like the choruses. I can't think of the guitar part. Okay, yeah. So I'll listen to that, and then also my last one, "Find a Reason" by Montgomery. This is another one that I just heard in the moment and thought that's really interesting and cool, and I added it to the playlist and then haven't listened to it since. So I'm gonna listen to it again.
We'll go listen to it again
to re-inspire myself. But
awesome.
Yeah, I just wanted to, that's why I put it on the playlist, so I could come back and listen to it and not forget about it in the never-ending deluge of new music that I'm listening to every day.
Amazing. Well, I'm here for the throwbacks, and Carl's here for the new Music Fridays.
Nope.
Hopefully, I'll be able to find some newer ones, and you'll be able to find some older ones too, as we go through this process. I think I'm really enjoying.
We balance each other.
Yeah, I'm enjoying the challenge of finding new music and sharing it with Carl and you guys. So hopefully this will continue.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Ben,
well,
you're
Carl,
the man.
Yeah. Thanks for hanging with me and talking about hospitality and how we can stand out as engineers and people.
Yeah, and I hope that you get to experience your own weird eucalyptus worry doll trapped in an airbag.
I would love
sort of
to.
experience.
That sounds amazing.
Bye, Ben.
Bye, Carl.